Hello, welcome to Catholic Life, ordinary people with extraordinary faith. I'm Deacon Jody Moscona. Thank you for joining us today. I'm joined today with Darryl Ducote, who is the Director of Marriage and Family Life for the Diocese. Is that the full title?
That's the full title.
You want to add some more stuff to it?
No.
Evangelist extraordinaire, soon to be. How you doing, Darryl?
I'm doing great, thank you.
I still get comments about the show we did about the Damians.
Oh, is that right?
Still. That was a great, because you gave us a lot of information we didn't have, and then you had the concert.
Yeah.
And so that was awesome, man.
Thank you. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you kind of filled in a part of our life that we needed filled in because we had forgotten about it, if you know what I mean.
Well, that was a long time ago that all that started, yeah, so there's a lot to fill in.
That's great stuff. And how's it going at the diocese? Still
going very well, very, very well. I'm really enjoying the work that we're doing, and there's lots of possibilities that we're looking forward to, and so it's going extremely well. I'm enjoying it.
So we got emails at our churches recently. Father came and showed me his, which was all the priests being told about a change in marriage prep, and the way it was couched is changes coming to guidelines for, like the official kind of part of it. And you and I had talked about it already, so I kind of knew, and I went, oh, that really sounds formal.
Yeah.
And there is a formality to it, but in essence, what you're doing is you're getting rid of pre-Cana, which we call life choice.
Oh, that one day,
the one day version of it. Yeah.
Yes. Well, that was in place when I came into the office.
Right.
And you've been gracious enough to work with that, and we've modified it a little bit over time. Yeah. But we're looking at some much bigger changes coming up.
And we're going to talk about it in a second. I was just kind of making light of the fact that you do have a formality involved with when you change guidelines.
Absolutely.
That we all have to follow who do marriage prep to get them to the altar.
That's right. That's right.
And when you promulgate those, you got to do it in the proper way and all that stuff. So all of you out there, you kind of don't know the backside of a lot of things. You just see the effect of it, right?
True.
So what we're talking about here is, in the works is a movement from a one-day marriage prep opportunity where the couples come and they kind of get inundated with a bunch of stuff in a short amount of time, and we don't know about the effectiveness because of a lot of dynamics, to give them an opportunity to spread that over 2 nights, 3 days, well, one night. It's a 3-day weekend, basically. We'll talk about it, and get more information and refocus on the church part of it. How's that sound?
That sounds great. I have to put it in context, though. It's we're moving. The piece that you're talking about is moving from the one day to a weekend retreat.
Right.
But that's only part of a much bigger plan. And we had looked at the possibility of drafting a much bigger plan for marriage preparation in general.
Right.
And this is just one piece of that.
Okay.
So it took us a while to come up with a big plan. And so we put together an advisory committee to work on that. And that committee met actually once a month for over a year.
Wow, good.
And basically we were looking at 2 important issues that seemed to keep coming up in terms of marriage preparation. One was, what is the content of marriage preparation? Because when you're looking at preparing couples for marriage, you have to look at relationship skills, you have to look at their discernment, whether or not this is who they want to marry and are they prepared for marriage.
Right.
You have to look at what is the church's teaching about marriage and the church's teaching about sexuality. And then you have to look at spirituality. How does God fit into our relationship?
Right.
So there's all these different dimensions that are part of marriage preparation. You can't do that in one day.
Obviously.
So we had some real concerns about the content of what couples needed to have to prepare for marriage. The other concern was the level of faith that couples had coming to us. Because nowadays, more couples are moving in together than are getting married.
Right.
And so the faith level of many of the young people that are coming is somewhat weak. And even those that are coming, oftentimes they're coming because they like the setting, not necessarily because there's a real strong faith that's driving them there. Right. So there's the whole issue of, like you were saying earlier, evangelization and conversion.
Absolutely.
You know, where are they in the faith life?
Right.
So when we were looking at those two elements, the content and the conversion, we were looking for some kind of model to guide us in creating an overall plan for marriage preparation. And the model that really came to mind was suggested actually by Pope John Paul II in his apostolic exhortation on the family called Familiaris Consortio, where he talks about marriage preparation. And one of the things he mentions was that preparation needs to be gradual and needs to be in stages similar to the catechumenate.
Right.
And for those people who don't know what the catechumenate refers to, it's the rite of Christian initiation of adults.
Right.
We often refer to it as RCIA.
Right.
So we began to look at the model of RCIA as a possible model for marriage preparation. And so that's the project we took on the course of that year with the advisory committee. So we have an overall plan. And if it's helpful, I can kind of spell that out a little bit more.
Let's back up just a second. And
Sure.
You just tweaked some things that made me think about it. So RCIA is being used currently in several different ways, some less effective than others, being
Yes.
kind, okay?
Yeah.
I remember Father Ranzino teaching us the best way is ongoing, year-round RCIA, where we're always engaged in the process of preparing people for initiation into the faith.
Correct.
Okay. So if that's the optimal, is it that we can get to that for marriage prep?
Maybe eventually.
Okay.
But what we're trying to do is use the model, those stages of RCIA,
Right.
and plug in what's important for marriage preparation in those different stages.
Right. So the call, the initiate, all the different scrutinies and all the different things we go through, you can kind of reconfigure that in a marriage prep setting.
Exactly.
Hopefully.
Exactly.
Okay. So here's my thought. I buy in totally to the need for conversion and evangelization. I just wonder how we're going to capture them. Because I see a lot of couples that this is a checkbox on the way to the altar.
Right.
They don't really care about the spirituality. They don't care about the church's teaching on sexuality. It might be that they want to walk down the aisle, but it might be a cultural thing. It might be that their parents are insisting that they get married in the church.
True. Yeah.
And so I know you've already thought about this, but I'm thinking of it from the perspective of a couple comes to me, they want to get married, one's Catholic, one's not. That's the paradigm I live in as a deacon. That's a challenge in this context. Because if I hear you right, if you're putting them through an RCIA, you're almost initiating the non-Catholic.
In some ways, yes.
An arm twister.
I think the key here is being able to convey to them that the church cares about them. And so this is...
And the church does, by the way.
And the church does, absolutely.
Immensely.
Yeah. And out of that care for them, we're offering them all these different supports along the way.
Right.
To strengthen their relationship and to help them understand the role that God plays in their relationship now and their relationship as a married couple in the future. So all of this has to do with expressing the church's care for them.
Right.
That we want to nurture them along the way in the best way possible to try and give them the greatest chance for success in their marital relationship. And part of that has to do with the role that God plays, because without God in the relationship, the demands of marriage are pretty tough.
And the rate of failure is way higher without God as part of your
absolutely. So that's part of that presentation of caring on the part of the church. This is what we're trying to offer the couple for their benefit, not to burden them, but to really support them now and in the future.
Right. So is it still 6 months? That was a curveball. I'm sorry.
Well, let me explain. As I mentioned earlier, we have an overall plan that we hope to initiate within the next couple of years. But the overall plan, following the pattern of RCIA, is a bit much to install all at once. So we're installing pieces of it at a time. Mm-hmm. And so we're keeping the 6-month preparation period for now.
Okay.
We hope to expand it later when we get more of the pieces involved. Mm-hmm. And the parts of the plan that we're installing now, or what you mentioned earlier about the retreat, to take the place of the one-day marriage preparation process.
Which I lightheartedly said we're getting rid of pre-Cana, and I was just trying to make light of a very significant change in the character of that part of the prep. And I was playing it down, and I apologize.
It's okay.
It's just my nature.
So what we're doing is following the model of RCIA, and the big plan that we hope to eventually install is following the 4 stages of RCIA. RCIA has an evangelization stage at the beginning where people who are interested in the faith come and inquire about whether the Catholic faith will meet my needs. So we're doing the same thing with a couple initially, or we hope to, primarily through the priest and the deacon in some of the initial sessions. Then in the catechumenate, that's sort of the period of a Christian apprenticeship for those that are becoming Catholic Christians. So there's catechesis involved, there's getting them involved in worship, getting them familiar with the parish and the parish ministries, and all of those things. So that's a whole nother segment for a couple that's engaged to understand what the church's understanding of marriage is, and also to develop skills for relationships.
We're going to take a break. You're overloading all of us right now. But let's take a deep breath, and when we come back, we'll pick up on the catechumenate part. How's that?
Sounds good.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. We're talking to Darryl Ducote, the Director of Marriage and Family Life for the Diocese, and we're talking about some very exciting changes to the marriage preparation requirements and guidelines for the diocese. Stay with us. On the other side of the break, we'll pick it up right here.
Focus, a weekly series that takes an inspirational and informative look at today's culture through religious, entertaining, and informative family-oriented programs. Join us each week for Focus here on Catholic Life Television.
For over 20 years, the St. Vincent de Paul Community Pharmacy has served our area. We provide prescription medicines for those who have nowhere to turn for this most basic healthcare need. Please, if you need your medicine or you know a family member that needs their medicine, contact us. Kay, how can they get in touch?
383-7450.
Give us a call today and spread the word so that we can ensure no one goes without their prescription medication.
Welcome back to Catholic Life. I'm Deacon Jody Moscona, and I'm with Darryl Ducote, the Director of Marriage and Family Life for the Diocese, and we're talking about some very exciting changes that are going to be put in place for the guidelines for marriage prep in the diocese. And before the break, we were talking about the 4 stages basically, and you kind of compared it and mirrored it through RCIA.
Correct.
And so why don't you go back over 1 and expand on number 2 where we were, and then let's move on to 3 and 4.
So again, what we're looking at is an overall plan that we'll gradually put in place over time that mirrors the RCIA process and the 4 stages of RCIA.
Right.
The first stage is the evangelization stage. And
Inquiry, evangelization.
So the engaged couple would be meeting with the priest or the deacon and basically sharing their story, both their personal stories about how they met and also their stories of faith and why they are coming to the church for marriage. What is it they're looking for? What the church has to offer them. So we're kind of sharing the gospel of marriage with them initially. Then,
so let me just say this real quick. What I find right now is I'll ask couples, why are you here?
Yeah.
And oftentimes they don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, literally. Well, what do you mean? I said, well, did somebody chase you down the street and say, hey, come get married in here? Or did you know, well, we want to get married in the church. Well, what does that mean? Quiet. Oftentimes they don't know. I hear you saying you want to fill that void.
Exactly.
In the first time.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Very nice.
Because that's a really important step.
Right. Very nice.
Then we move into a more formal preparation process in the second stage, which parallels the catechumenate stage of RCIA. Mm-hmm. So it involves catechesis of what the marriage means in the church. Mm-hmm. It involves skills development about relationship skills, conflict resolution, communication, all of those skills. And it also involves some mentoring because we're, just as in RCIA, each person that's going through the process has a sponsor.
Right, a sponsor.
With this process, we would invite them to have a mentor couple that follows them all the way through. So it's not just like 3 or 4 meetings. It follows them into even the last stage, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But that mentor couple becomes very important, partly to help them with developing skills, but also creating a bond with them as a source of support and a connection to the parish.
And modeling what marriage is.
And modeling what marriage is, absolutely.
Awesome.
The third stage in RCIA is the season of Lent. And the season of Lent is really a time in the catechumenate where a person who's coming into the faith has to do some self-searching about, can I live up to the demands of the gospel? Can I truly be a follower of Christ? So it's really a time for internal searching and for discernment. So that's a spiritual quest. It's not about communication or any of that sort of stuff. This is strictly a spiritual quest. So to model that for marriage preparation, that's where this retreat comes in that we had talked about at the very beginning.
Right, okay.
So this is the spiritual preparation for marriage. So it's a weekend retreat, and it's modeled on the actual rite of marriage, the ritual of marriage, which has the prayers, the scripture readings, the vows, the blessings, all of which, when you unpack them, gives you a pretty good idea of what you're committing to.
Right.
And am I able to make this kind of a commitment?
And oh, by the way, in the change in the rite that went on a couple of years ago, we went from this mentality of we're going to get married and have a mass to we're going to have a mass and get married.
Okay.
You know, it's the focus on Christ as part of your marriage first.
Absolutely.
And I hear that coming loud and clear. Let's put Christ back in our marriages.
Right.
Wow, that's awesome.
Now, there's been a tradition in our diocese to have a weekend retreat with engaged encounter. So we're going to keep that as an option. So there'll be a choice between engaged encounter or this new retreat, which I'll elaborate on in just a moment, if you don't mind.
That's where I started.
Okay. And let me go to the fourth stage, so we can get that out of the way.
Yeah.
The fourth stage that we're ultimately planning in the RCIA process is a stage called mystagogia. It's after a person has been baptized and now they're practicing the faith. But what does that mean day to day? So there are sessions in the RCIA process where the group comes together and talks about what is it like to live out the faith. Well, in this process, what we're hoping is that the mentor couples that started with them during that second phase continues through the fourth phase for the first year of marriage. So they continue to meet with their mentor couple, preferably on a monthly basis, after they're married, to talk about their adjustment to married life, how their faith fits into that, etc. So it's an ongoing process. Mm-hmm. So that's the fourth stage in all of this.
Man, you got some high hopes.
We do. That's why
I love it though.
That's why we're implementing it a little bit at a time. So that's the grand plan. So what we're planning for this coming year are two elements of that plan. The first one is the weekend retreat, which is the spiritual reflection on marriage, based on the marriage ritual and all of the components of that. And we're involving married couples as models for that weekend retreat, and the couples will be doing most of the presentations and the group processing with the couples that are in attendance.
Right.
We also hope to have a priest and or a deacon accompany them for that weekend. Okay. So that's the first change. The other change is that we're going to put some extra emphasis on instructing couples in natural family planning. It will not be part of that retreat. It's a separate workshop, and we're going to increase the number of those. We also have some additional instructors on natural family planning, so that we hope to be able to do some workshops at different areas of the diocese to make it convenient for engaged couples to receive that training. Because it's so important, and most couples really don't even know what that's all about.
Yeah, yes, and yes, and yes. It's amazing just doing the one day when you show the video, how much it blows them away. It's 16 minutes or something,
yes.
and they go, why didn't anybody tell me this?
Yes.
Well, we just did. Now you're going to make it a part of it, a bigger part of it.
Bigger part of the process. And we're going to encourage the pastors to really encourage the couples to attend those natural family planning sessions. So they'll either attend the workshop, which is called NFP 101. It's like the basics of natural family planning. Or if they already have some idea of what natural family planning is, and they want to focus on a specific method, because there are several methods of natural family planning. If they want to focus on the specific method, that would meet that same need. But then they would have to meet with a couple who is trained in that particular method.
Right.
Yeah.
So for the folks that are watching, what we're talking about here is a very important part of the prep, where we let them know what the church's position on marriage is through their sexuality. Mm-hmm. And often what happens is, the way it is now, they see a video that talks about NFP, and for those that don't know, that's natural family planning, and it's not just rhythm or anything like that. It's really a scientific method that's very, very highly effective. Most of the couples don't even know that.
Most doctors don't know about it.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but that's true.
But we're hearing more and more of that.
We had Dr. Rob on the show before.
Oh, great.
So our viewers are at least kind of familiar with,
excellent.
with what we're talking about. So that's very awesome, by the way. And I know that there was a need for more instructors and more availability, and that's kind of one of the places we had a challenge with, and I'm sure you're now working to fill that.
Yes, we have a number of instructors now that are trained.
Great.
And so we're going to be using them. So we're not relying on just one instructor.
Good.
And like I said, we'll hope to make that available in different areas of the diocese, not just here in Baton Rouge.
So the priest or deacon is going to be the one to refer them to that, or,
yes.
or the off? Okay, that's great. That's good. That's good. So in the short term, and we're running out of time, in the short term, people can see the change in the availability of the retreat requirement,
Right.
still in the context of the 6 months.
Correct.
Marriage prep, an emphasis on NFP
Correct. Those are the two changes that are coming next year.
next year. And long term, you're going to continue to formulate a mindset that this prep is more like RCIA.
Correct. Yeah. With the goal of not only increasing their relationship skills, but also increasing their faith and their understanding of what marriage really means in the eyes of the church.
And the reason that's important is because statistically, getting married in the church gives you a statistically higher chance of making it. And not only that, but if you get married in the church and you go to church, which a lot of people forget. They get married in the church and they don't go to church, and it loses some of the effectiveness.
Right.
You know, but if you get married in the church, go to church, and then become a member of the church and then actively participate in ministry, the chance of your marital success skyrockets.
Absolutely.
Statistically.
Yeah.
So you're just giving them a better chance.
That's exactly right. And that's why in the grand plan that we talked about, the mentor couples become so important, because the mentor couple can become their link to the parish.
Right, and get them involved in ministry.
Get them involved in ministry, accompany them to Mass, you know.
Amen.
So that mentor couple can play a really important role in fostering the faith, not just the relationship skills, but also fostering the faith.
Man, that is tremendous. So here's what we're asking you. If you're a married couple and feel the tug at your heart right now by the Holy Spirit to help by putting on the weekend retreats or being a mentor couple, you should contact Darryl's office, the Office of Marriage and Family Life. Go to diobr.org or call, what's the number?
242-0135.
242-0135, because right now what the need is more married couples who are dedicated Catholic married couples to participate.
Yes.
So that's what they need, that's what we need as a diocese, and that's what we need as a church, and that's what God needs. And if you feel the Holy Spirit tugging at you, respond. How's that?
Thanks for the plug.
You always have to have a
That's
pitch.
great.
Darryl, thank you so much for joining us.
Enjoyed it.
We're going to have to do this again because as the program morphs, we're going to have to get more and more information out.
That would be fine. Be
Thank
happy
you
to
so
come
much.
back.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us today on Catholic Life. I'm Deacon Jody. Until next time, God bless.